Do you think the Venom Snake twist, or revelation, whatever you want to call it, impacted the overall series in a positive or a negative way? Do you think? What do you think about the twist overall?
I don't necessarily. It's the answer that we needed. We needed to know that there was another snake and that there was a clone. Or not necessarily a clone, but somebody portraying Snake.
Yeah.
And it totally does that. So I'm not against the idea of it. Him not knowing it is kind of an interesting twist. I think that it sets up the other plot lines later on that are all touched in, like, was specifically with Ocelot, and I don't think it detracts from the storyline. I completely understand what he was trying to do with it, and if you actually look at something design aspect wise of that game, that that he doesn't do in any other game, he does something that GoldenEye does. And which is when you start loading into something, you do this fly around third person thing, and then you fly into the person's first person mode anytime you get into the helicopter.
Yeah.
And when he does that, he's trying to put you in the mind space of the player. Now, the only reason it's third person is because he can't handle first person games. He gets nauseous.
Yeah.
And he's said so himself a number of times. So if that game could have been first person or even VR, I think he would have jumped on it.
Wow.
And it would have had way more impact of what he was trying to convey, that you yourself are the Phantom, because you've been trained through all these different things, all these different games that have been played, because he always adds on to them, that when you get to the end of it, you're supposed to have like this revelation yourself.
Yeah.
And it gets a little lost because of the way the story is being told.
Yeah.
And I think that the limitation of the design, because of the first person thing and the third person thing, it also kind of gets a little lost.
Okay.
But I think that's what his ultimate goal was with that story.
Yeah. Like, that is one thing I do like about the Venom Snake idea, is like, it is kind of cool to think that the player is in this game kind of thing. It does feel almost like a bit of a love letter from Kojima to the fans. It kind of almost like a way of like putting them into the game as like a thank you to the support that they've given, which I think is a really, like, it's just quite a nice idea.
You could design your own face in the game, and that's unique.
Yeah.
So.
Whilst it is cool to give an explanation for like why Big Boss turns up as the end boss twice in the first two Metal Gear games, it kind of like explains that a bit better. I do think like we did miss out on like what the game was marketed as. Like, this is the final chapter of Big Boss, and you're gonna see.
It's not.
Yeah. You're gonna see his fall with the villainy, and that was really exciting. I was like, I can't wait to see this story, and then for it just to kind of be like, oh no, he's actually gone off and done his own thing, and this kind of explains a bit of the first Metal Gear game, and it does feel like you said about in your video about there's a potential game there. I do think, like, if I could choose to have played as the real Big Boss and seen his storyline, I think I might have liked that game a bit more.
Yeah, I'm with you too. Because that's what we're told it was going to be. I remember the first time when I saw the first like production images that were coming out, and they were like releasing it, and we're like, "You're gonna have I saw it. And I was like, "That's Big Boss. We're gonna play as Big Boss."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yes!" And I was like, "This is awesome." And it's not. I mean, it is awesome. What we got.
Yeah.
But it was. I wanted to see the Big Boss story.
Yeah.
And this is a branch of the Big Boss story.
Yeah, same. It almost the kind of impact it had on me personally was like during like before we got MGS5, when we had MGS3 and Peace Walker as like the story for Big Boss, I could never decide whether I like who I like better, Big Boss or Solid Snake. I was very on the fence, and for me, MGS5, I felt like I don't feel as attached to Big Boss anymore because we didn't really get his story. So now I'm just like, nah, Solid Snake. I prefer Solid Snake because we got more of a full story with him. So I think it's kind of weird to think prior to MGS5 where I was on who I preferred more, and how MGS5 just kind of made me completely go, no, Solid Snake's my favorite, and Big Boss is a pretty cool character too. But I don't know. I don't know how to explain it really. I just feel like it damaged his character in some ways. Might be a bit dramatic, but
no, I get what you're saying. So this is very funny that I look at it this way, and has Indiana Jones. Okay. He's an awesome character. If you were to compare Indiana Jones to Solid Snake, you cannot replace Solid Snake, just like you can't replace Indiana Jones. Okay. In the movies, Indiana Jones's father is portrayed by Sean Connery, who's the original James Bond. It makes so much sense for the character. James Bond's awesome in himself, but he's still not Indiana Jones. They're different characters. Okay. Now, in the movie, Sean Connery's fantastic in that movie, but when you get to when you see the characters, like, you still like Indiana Jones more than you like Sean Connery or his dad in the series. Now, that's kind of the same way I feel about Big Boss. I like Big Boss. I like Big Boss specifically because it even touches on the James Bond thing in Metal Gear Solid 3. And even more interesting is on the original, the MSX Metal Gear 2. They use a picture of Sean Connery as Big Boss.
No way.
Before they replaced him with updated images in the HD collection. The original game actually has pictures of Sean Connery as Big Boss.
I had no idea about that.
It's awesome looking because he's like sitting there with this very iconic look in his beard and his eyebrow. And so, like, to me, you see these characters and they connect so well for the time periods in which they're trying to portray. But ultimately, I agree. I think Solid Snake's a better character.
Yeah, definitely.